And the disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this blind man or his parents, that he was born blind?" And so many times this is what happens to us, is when we get sick and something comes upon us, many times when I go to the hospital, the first words that I hear out of the person's mouth is, "Why did God do this to me? What have I done to deserve this?" And so most of us are like the disciples, because the first place that we turn is that God now has punished us with whatever tragedy has befallen us. We've lost our jobs. We've unfortunately lost someone in death close to us in our family. We ourselves have become sick. And just like the disciples, we ask the question, who sinned? What is my sin? And this is wrong thinking, because Jesus gives us the answer, because he says, "It was not that this man sinned or his parents," which tells us that the suffering that comes is not from God. It is from our fallen nature. We live in a world that has disease and sickness and pain and suffering and death. That is the world that we live in. So this is not a sin that has befallen you, and out of that cry comes, "Why, God, have you now put this on me?" No. What this is that the works of God might be made manifest in him. We must work the works of him who sent me. And so the proper lesson to take from our pain, our suffering, and seeing those pass away is that we will now, through Jesus' Christos Anesti, we have been saved from ultimate death. And that is what we all look forward to, and that is the reading of the funeral service gospel, is the hope of that resurrection. So when something befalls us, let us look for what is the glory of God that comes with that. My example was the hip replacement, because I've never had an issue, I've never had a problem, and now all of a sudden now I have to have this hip replaced, and I'm in the hospital. Well, technically not for long, but I'm recovering for weeks. My initial thought was, why'd you give me this suffering? I got work I got to do. I got to get busy. I have things to do. But the glory of God that was made manifest was it gave me 4 weeks to think about where my life was going, and the fact that I was not steering properly and not walking in the path of God. And what it gave me was that time that I could reflect on who I'm supposed to be and who it was that I was becoming. And so I saw God's work made manifest in me through the suffering that was imposed. By God? No. By the fact that I live in a world that has disease and suffering and pain and death. And I just wanted to bring out that one important point, that always look for what Jesus tells us. How is God's glory be made manifest in us? And many times it can be through the death of a loved one that it leads us into some kind of charity work or some type of passion or pursuit to now cure that disease or give money to that cause or whatever it is that might be. It's what led now my mom to dedicate now all of what she received from you, this generous parish, and from her friends and family, so that it may go to Parkinson's research, because that's what my father passed away from. That's what was made manifest. Not to cry that my dad had this disease, but to do something positive with it for her, that was now to make sure that we find a cure for that disease. And it's the same for each and every one of us, is to make sure that we listen to what Jesus says and not wallow in our own sorrow about now this mistaken idea that God has somehow punished us.